We are told our history is a straight line. From hunter-gatherer to farmer. From stone tool to silicon chip, a slow, steady climb toward civilization. But buried in the sands of southern Iraq, there are thousands of clay tablets that scream a different truth. They don't just claim we evolved, they claim we were manufactured. Today, we aren't just looking at myths, we are looking at the foundational data of human existence. This is the story of the 67 Anunnaki, and why modern science is terrified of what these tablets actually say. When I first started researching the 67 Anunnaki, I went in as a skeptic. I expected to find harmless folklore, campfire stories, and exaggerated legends. But then I spent 3 days digging into the Enuma Elish and the Sumerian king lists. I didn't find legends, I found precise mathematical data. I found astronomical records of planets that shouldn't have been visible to the naked eye for another 3,000 years. The more I read, the more I realized that the conventional narrative of the cradle of civilization is built on a foundation of willful ignorance. Today, I'm going to take you through the evidence, but I have to warn you. Once you see the pattern, you won't be able to look at human history the same way ever again. To understand the Anunnaki, you have to understand the Sumerians. Imagine a society that suddenly appears in 4000 BCE with no apparent predecessor. They have complex irrigation. They have the wheel. They have the concept of the 24-hour day, the 60-second minute, and a base 60 numbering system we still use today. They came out of nowhere, fully formed, and in their writings, they attribute this knowledge entirely to the visitors, to those who from heaven to earth came. The tablets describe the descent of these beings, not as a spiritual event, but as a technological one. They describe descent vehicles, they describe fire and smoke. They describe beings that were not gods in the mythological sense, but in the technological sense. Beings with power over the environment that we are only just beginning to comprehend today. If you look at the cylinder seals, these small, etched stone rollers, you can see them. Beings with winged helmets, beings holding what look like digital interface tools. Are these just symbols? Or are they the snapshots of an occupation? Why would an interstellar civilization travel thousands of light years just to occupy a primitive, volatile planet like Earth? Mainstream historians ignore the question. But the tablets are brutally pragmatic. They needed gold. Not for jewelry. Not for currency. They needed it for the survival of their own atmosphere. Think about our own cutting-edge science. We are currently experimenting with stratospheric aerosol injection, using metallic nanoparticles to reflect solar radiation and cool our planet. Now look at the Sumerian texts again. They describe the Anunnaki planet, Nibiru, suffering from a decaying atmosphere, creating a need to spray fine gold dust into their upper stratosphere to act as a shield. This wasn't a resource grab. It was a planetary maintenance mission. The tablets described the first arrival at the Persian Gulf, the Eridu base. They detailed the grueling work of the lower-class Anunnaki, the Igigi, tasked with mining the gold from the earth. The sheer scale of this mining operation would have been unprecedented. We are talking about deep earth excavations that predate known mining technology by millennia. If you search for ancient mines in southern Africa, you find evidence of gold extraction that dates back tens of thousands of years. Mainstream archaeology calls them natural caves. The tablets call them the worksites of the Igigi. The question isn't whether they mined for gold. The question is, what kind of technology were they using to extract it? And what happens to a workforce when they decide they've had enough? The mining was too hard. The labor was too intense. The Igigi, the lower-tier beings, finally mutinied. They downed their tools. They burned their equipment. And the Anunnaki commanders were left with a crisis. They needed a new worker, something strong enough to handle the minds, but intelligent enough to follow complex instructions. They didn't have time for millions of years of evolution, they needed to force it. And this is where the Anunnaki Elish takes a turn into something that sounds terrifyingly like modern genetic engineering. The tablets describe a process of mixing the essence. They took the existing, primitive hominid already present on Earth, and they inserted their own divine blood, their own genetic markers, into the creature's egg. It was a hybridization process. In the texts, they call the result Autopa. The model man. Consider the definition of modern synthetic biology, the design and construction of new biological parts, devices, and systems. The tablets describe the creation of the Autopa in laboratory conditions. They describe the use of surrogates, they describe birth defects, monsters, and failures. Creatures that were discarded before they reached the desired template. Does that sound like a creation myth to you? Or does it sound like a field report from an experimental biology facility? When you look at the gaps in our fossil record, the missing links that scientists have spent a century trying to explain, the tablets provide a solution that is as elegant as it is terrifying. We weren't the product of chance, we were the product of a design specification. We were engineered. We were given just enough intelligence to work, but not enough to understand why. We were the workforce of the gods. But something went wrong. The Anunnaki didn't just want workers, they wanted subjects. And when the humans, this new, hybrid creation, began to develop their own consciousness, their own desires, and their own independence, the creators didn't just see a success. They saw a threat. The ancient texts contain a shocking revelation. There was a point when the Anunnaki commanders, led by Enlil, decided that this experiment had reached its limit. They decided that the creation had to be wiped clean. This isn't just myth. The Great Deluge, the flood stories found in nearly every culture across the globe, weren't just environmental disasters. According to the Sumerian tablets, they were an attempted extermination. Why would they create us, and then immediately try to destroy us? And more importantly, who among the Anunnaki defied the order to save us? In the next investigation, I'm breaking down the true cause of the Great Deluge, the hidden genetic records of the survivors, and the secret war between the gods that dictates our lives even today. Hit that subscribe button now. You need to see the evidence I've gathered for the next part of this series. Because once you see who actually protected us, the narrative of ancient aliens transforms into something much darker. We are the descendants of a hybrid. We are the bridge between a dying star and a living planet. Every day, we walk this earth, assuming our history is settled. But we are living in the ruins of a story we aren't supposed to remember. If the Anunnaki are real, then we aren't the masters of our own destiny, we're the experiment. And the experiment is still running. The frame is veiled for a reason. But now that you've looked behind it, you can't look away. I'm the veiled frame. Keep asking the questions they told you not to. I'll see you in the next investigation.